that will inspire many others to do exactly the same thing.
People with ordinary backgrounds doing extraordinary things to save our Earth.
Before the Nobel Peace Prize knew I existed, the Goldman Prize realized I existed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Douglas E. Goldman of the Goldman Environmental Foundation.
Good evening. On behalf of the board and staff of the Goldman Environmental Foundation, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this evening's ceremony. Tonight, we shall award and celebrate 6 new recipients of the Goldman Environmental Prize. Often cited as the Green Nobel, this prize is an enduring testimony to its founders, my parents, Richard and Rhoda Goldman of blessed memory. On this, the 30th anniversary of the prize, we will have awarded 194 individuals from 89 different countries. They all have one thing in common: notable actions undertaken to protect this planet and its species from degradation and destruction. Reflecting upon these past 30 years, what have been some of the major environmental achievements in which Goldman Prize winners have played a central role? Number 1, species extinctions have been stopped throughout planet Earth. This includes the restoring of iconic endangered species like black rhinos, mountain gorillas, and endangered cats. Secondly, a palpable shift to renewable energy has occurred. People are choosing sustainable practices to supplant destructive methods. Examples include major advances in solar and wind power creation, as well as electric and hybrid vehicles. Third, there has been active protection of the natural ecology of our planet. Actions taken include the removal of old dams and the banning of offshore drilling. Fourth, environmental awareness is more prevalent throughout the globe. Commentary spawned by Vice President Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth and the Earth Summits of 1992 and 2012 have raised environmental awareness and resulted in significant action. Unfortunately, before we become too complacent while patting ourselves on our collective back, we must recognize that the threats to our planet's well-being are both unprecedented and accelerating. Turning our view to the next 30 years, what are the most important challenges threatening our world's environmental health? Firstly, pollution resulting from industrial and consumer waste remains a major challenge. This threat includes the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a collection of plastic the size of the state of Texas that has been dumped into the Pacific Ocean, and a newly discovered pollutant called microplastics, which have been found in unacceptable quantities in pristine environments like the Pyrenees Mountains of Europe. 2, deforestation, which has commonly resulted from extractive mining for minerals, along with oil and gas exploration, and also large expanses of monocrop plantations, such as palm oil plantations. Third, and I've saved the worst threat for last, namely climate change. The signs of our changing climate have become too obvious to deny. Changes that include melting polar ice caps, rising sea levels, extraordinarily destructive wildfires and fire tornadoes, massive hurricanes, unprecedented flooding, and increasingly hotter temperatures. In the United States in 2018, there were 13 weather disasters, each of which destroyed over $1 billion in property. A famous American made the following remark: restoring nature to its natural state is a cause beyond party and beyond factions. It is a cause of particular concern to young Americans because they, more than we, will reap the grim consequences of our failure to act on programs which are needed now if we are to prevent disaster later. Through our years of past carelessness, we incurred a debt to nature, and now that debt is being called. So I ask, by whom and when were those comments made? You were correct if you stated President Richard Nixon in his 1970 State of the Union address. Clearly, those same comments could have been made today, but not by the current president. Richard Nixon was the first president of the United States of America to resign from office as he faced certain impeachment and conviction for the obstruction of justice. Sadly, nearly a half-century later, we again have a president who has obstructed justice and may well face impeachment and possible conviction. But unlike Richard Nixon, Donald Trump has been attempting to move the environmental clock backwards, whether it be his attempts to remove our nation from the global effort to address climate change or dismantle the Environmental Protection Agency, the very agency that Richard Nixon started to launch with that State of the Union address. Trump's innumerable reckless actions are neither acceptable nor supportable. Much has been accomplished over these past 30 years. Add to that list the astounding recent election of 2016 Goldman Prize winner Zuzana Kapitova as president of the nation of Slovakia. Nevertheless, our call to environmental action is more needed than ever. We must reverse our perilous course. As our friend, Goldman Prize winner Berta Cáceres of blessed memory said, "We have no other spare or replacement planet. We have only this one, and we have to take action." Once again, welcome. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to the MC for tonight's ceremony. A descendant of one of our planet's most famous families fighting to protect our oceans. Her surname represents a true environmental legacy. She began swimming before learning to walk in her native south of France. Today, she is recognized as a great advocate for those oceans that nurtured her. Please give a warm welcome to Alexandra Cousteau.
Good evening, and Doug, thank you for that kind introduction. I'm incredibly honored to be here hosting the 30th anniversary of the Goldman Environmental Prize at the San Francisco Opera House, and I'd like to welcome everyone watching on YouTube. Let me also welcome our special guests, the Honorable Al Gore, Michael Franti, and Vocal Rush. This ceremony is a highlight for all of us who care about our planet and work to protect it. Thank you to the Goldman family for sharing this wonderful evening with all of us. The Goldman Environmental Prize is truly unique. The environmental heroes you'll meet tonight are extraordinary human beings. They have done nothing less than change the world. They persist and never stop fighting for a better planet. These are people who have stared down adversity, overwhelming odds, powerful foes, and not blinked. They have often risked everything they have and never taken no for an answer. Over the past 30 years, the prize has been awarded to 194 men and women at the forefront of protecting our environment. They motivate all of us to do what we can in our own communities to protect the planet. This evening, we honor 6 amazing individuals from around the world. While their cultures, customs, and languages may be different, they all share a common goal. Each has stepped up to speak out, organize their communities, and take action against the destruction of our environment. The recipients remind us that it takes just one person standing up to start a movement. In addition to awarding the prize, the Goldman Environmental Foundation supports all prize winners, past and present, in a number of ways. We provide grants to past prize winners to advance key projects. We offered networking and capacity building support to further work in their communities. And, perhaps most importantly, we provide security and emergency support for prize winners who are at risk or under threat. Also, when prize winners come to San Francisco each year from their own countries, they embark on a 10-day tour that concludes in Washington, D.C. During this time, they widen their exposure and impact through media interviews, meetings with funders, nonprofit leaders, and elected officials. In addition to being treated to a well-deserved break from their hard work, they also participate in a tree planting event with young environmental leaders at Crissy Field. As we celebrate 30 years, it gives us a chance to look back at some of the environmental heroes who have received the Goldman Prize and share some of their important moments.
In 1977, when we planted 7 trees, many people thought that we were joking because we were just a bunch of women. Many years later, we are talking about millions of trees, and some people have started taking women seriously after all.
No child should have to go to school 1,100 feet from a toxic waste incinerator, and no president should allow it.
We will not continue to sacrifice our culture, our people, and our future for dirty energy.
We are in this battle because we want the global community to know that our territory is not to be treated as a dumping site.
That our survival as communities, as states, as a nation, as a human race depends on our ability to mobilize.
This is what we fight for. It's about life, it's about colors, it's about people, it's about rights and justice.
We must work together for the good of all people.
It comes from pulling each other up on this journey and leave our children the planet that they deserve.
The earth is not ours. It is a treasure we hold in trust for the future generations.
Now allow me to recognize the members of the Goldman family who lead the foundation and shape the vision of the prize. Susie Gelman, John Goldman, and Doug Goldman. Would you please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you for carrying on the leadership and legacy of your wonderful parents, Richard and Rhoda Goldman, who launched the prize in 1989. And now it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker this evening, a man who in recent years has devoted his time to solving the climate crisis, the 45th Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Al Gore.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the warmth of that welcome. And Alexandra, thank you for being such a wonderful host for us this evening. And thank you. This is in some ways a family-oriented event. I'm going to talk about the Goldman family in a moment, but I want to make reference to the Cousteau family. Thank you, Alexandra. And I had the privilege of working with your dad and working with your grandfather, in particular, in helping to try and protect the Antarctic Ocean and on other matters. But let me focus, before I launch into my brief comments here, on the Goldman family. I had the great privilege of being close with Richard and Rhoda. And what they started in 1989 has now grown into a ceremony and a set of awards each year that really and truly represents the primary environmental set of awards in the entire world. And I want to congratulate this year's 6 winners. Your names will be called out individually, and your stories will be told, and I'm not going to encroach on that process by acknowledging you individually because you deserve your moment in the spotlight here as they have planned it. But I do want to give you a bit of advice, each of the 6 of you. Your lives will change this evening, because after tonight, you will forever after be known as winners of the Goldman Prize. And that's something very special. I want to thank Susie Gelman and John Goldman and Doug Goldman. And Doug, thank you. Your remarks were outstanding earlier. This generation has actually taken their parents' vision, built on it, elevated it, and made it even more special if that were possible. I'm not going to acknowledge individually the next generation, but I know who you are, and I've worked with the next generation also, and whenever the time comes, you're going to see this Goldman Prize continue to build and grow, and I'm very excited about that as well. I'm honored to be a part of this program. You're going to get entertained by Michael Franti and the Vocal Rush later, so you're in for a real treat there too. And Michael Franti is a good friend and has helped me with the Climate Reality Project over the years, as the Goldman family has, and I'm very grateful for that. So let me say just a few words. Time's running out. There's still enough time. Don't lose hope. We're going to prevail. We are not yet winning, but we will win. We will win. We must win. We have to win. We are not yet developing solutions to the climate crisis and the larger ecological crisis of which it is the most salient manifestation, but the momentum is building, and it's building in part because of the recognition and focus on the women and men who are calling our attention to the most important manifestations of this crisis in their local communities. I remember vividly, this video that we saw earlier that highlighted the women recipients of the prize over these last 30 years began with Wangari Maathai. She was a dear friend, and I met her in the late 1980s in Kenya. I was so thrilled, really, when she was one of the very first winners of the Goldman Prize, and I think that the skill with which this selection process chooses men and women who are recipients has been one of the great secrets to why this prize has achieved the prominence and respect that it has earned over the years. But what these women and men are telling us is that the collision between human civilization as we have presently organized it and the surprisingly fragile ecological system of the earth is creating great pain and distress. The past 5 years have been the hottest 5 years on record. Last year, all-time record high temperatures were experienced in more than 200 cities on every continent. Already 84 records have been broken this year. Recently, in the last week, we saw the highest temperature ever achieved in several countries. In the last 2 years, for those who are focused on the economy and the economic impacts of what we're experiencing, there have been more than $500 billion in losses from climate-related events just in the last 2 years. And we are in danger of crossing some dangerous thresholds, but we are also very close to crossing a tipping point in the political and social realm, beyond which it will be easier to mobilize public movements to change the policies that need to be changed. I'm inspired by the grassroots activism that is being honored in the 6 prizes this year, and that has been honored in the prizes in each of the previous 29 years in which the Goldman Prize has been awarded. If the rest of us had been able to pay closer attention to the damage cited and the alarm bells sounded by the grassroots activists who are among the first to really experience and call attention to what's going on, we would be farther along the road to solving the climate crisis and the ecological crisis than we are. But I truly believe we are very close to this political tipping point. And if you look back, and many are familiar with this narrative, every single social and moral movement that has improved the condition of humanity has in its time been confronted with obstacles and resistance that seemed insurmountable. But once their activity, the activity of these grassroots activists, succeeded in clearing away the distractions and the underbrush, if you will, and revealing the central choice between right and wrong, then the conscience of humanity was activated. This was true of the abolition movement. It was true of the women's suffrage movement. It was true of the civil rights movement. It was true of the anti-apartheid movement. It was true during the nuclear freeze years. It was true more recently during the gay and lesbian rights movement. And if someone had told me even 10 years ago that in the year 2019, marriage equality would be legal in all 50 states in the United States, I would have said, I hope so, but I don't think that's likely. But it happened because people's awareness and consciousness was raised. And by the way, this city played such a key role in bringing that revolution to pass. And now we are close to the tipping point on climate. The central question is it right or is it wrong to persist and continue in a pattern of activity that destroys the basis of human civilization and in the process leads to the sixth great extinction and the disappearance of more than half of all the living species with which we share this planet? The answer appears to be obvious, but in each of the previous movements I mentioned, the answer appeared to be painfully, excruciatingly obvious to activists and grassroots activists much longer before it was apparent to everyone. That is where we are right now. But the role of grassroots activists, which every single year is honored and celebrated and recognized by the Goldman Prizes, is right at the center of the process by which humanity advances. We see this now with Greta Thunberg in Sweden and the school strike movement. We see this with the Extinction Rebellion in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. We see it with Zero Hour. We see it with a whole host of movements. As is true with so many of the previous movements I mentioned, youth have played a particular role. And there is, I want to single out again a growing climate justice movement within frontline communities that I have had the honor of working with, particularly recently. The cause for social justice is just as important, if not more so, as it was 50 years ago. We see it with young students and women and men marching in favor of sensible gun laws, in the Black Lives Matter movement, in the movement for trans rights, and the movement against gender discrimination. A shift is underway. So when you celebrate and applaud the incredible achievements of these women and men being honored tonight, please remember how their lives and their energy, their hearts, their passion fit into this larger narrative of humanity attempting to achieve a just relationship between our species and the ecological system upon which we depend and upon which so many other species depend. And if anyone is tempted for one moment to despair, tempted for 1 second to the idea that we may be doomed, we may not have the ability as human beings to rise up in time, to summon sufficient energy and motivation to do what is essential, just remember that the passion for social justice, the passion for environmental justice, the passion for change, the passion to do the right thing is itself a sustainable resource. Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of the award winners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gore. So in addition to a cash award, tonight's prize winners receive a statue of the Ouroboros, a serpent biting its own tail, representing nature's power of renewal. Presenting the Ouroboros is Susie Gelman, president of the Goldman Environmental Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet the heroes that we are celebrating tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Robert Redford. I regret I'm not able to join you this evening for the 30th anniversary celebration. It's been a pleasure for me to work with the prize for the past 16 years, and it's my honor to introduce you to the winners of the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize. The city of Vancouver, Washington, has always prospered as a shipping hub for the Pacific Northwest booming lumber industry, but has also been challenged by higher unemployment and homeless rates than neighboring Portland, Oregon. Tesoro Oil, a Texas-based conglomerate, proposed a $210 million project at the Port of Vancouver in 2013. It was met with a warm welcome.
This is a significant boon to the community. It will create jobs.
Talking with the commissioners at the time, they were very excited. We heard the PR spiel for it. It sounded really good. Jobs, jobs, jobs is what we heard. But then some things started coming into play that didn't sound so good.
As Linda Garcia and her associates began to ask questions about what kind of jobs would be created and how long they might last, the answers weren't satisfying. More importantly, the group began researching the potential health hazards of the largest oil terminal in North America, while the Port Commission made its decision.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The idea that something so large with every possible type of risk, from accidents there at the terminal during transfer to an oil spill in the river to the potential of an oil train spill, derailment, or explosion like we saw in Mosier, Oregon. And the biggest of the concerns, for me anyway, was the moment that terminal would have gone online every single day of the year, poisons and toxins and cancerous chemical substances would have been in the air, and we all have been breathing them in. I could stand on my doorstep and see the Port of Vancouver, and I wasn't going to let a company come in to my neighborhood and steamroll over people. And so, holding the neighborhood meetings and going to the Port Commission and testifying to them why we didn't want this to happen.
Please don't gamble with our futures or that of our children.
Meeting with the Port Commissioners one-on-one.
Well, even worse is a closed door to communication.
While Linda was in the throes of fighting what she thought was the biggest battle in her life, she received a medical diagnosis that forced her to battle on another front.
Then things got really bad, And so I didn't really have a choice, and I had to start going to chemotherapy. But I couldn't let it stop me because I felt this sense that I was going to be letting people down if I didn't keep fighting.
Linda persevered through treatments while attending countless community meetings, as well as local and statewide hearings.
This is about protecting people and precious resources which we all utilize.
Linda confronted lawmakers at every level of government for 3 long years, until finally, Washington's Energy Facility Evaluation Council issued an environmental impact statement that the Tesoro project posed significant harm to the community.
I move that the council recommend disapproval of the proposed Vancouver Energy Distribution Terminal.
Linda's fight culminated in Governor Jay Inslee's decision to deny the permits to build the largest oil terminal in North America in her community. A month later, the Port of Vancouver canceled Tesoro Oil's lease on the property.
It feels amazing because we all had the experience of glee and joy and happiness, but we also all know that it's not over.
We're standing together for healthy communities and a healthy climate.
It was so many thousands of other people that stood up and fought, and we were foot soldiers in this battle.
You need to care for the children. I'll see ya. Thank you.
Looking back, it doesn't seem this hard when you realize that there were so many people there with me. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. Mountains everywhere, forests, wilderness areas where I can refine my strength so that I can get back to who I truly am and get rid of a lot of the anger, the fear, the worry. This is my chapel, and this is where I remind myself that this is what the earth is supposed to be like. And so I need to recreate that inside of myself for when I go back down into the city and get back at it again.
For outstanding environmental achievement for North America, the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Linda Garcia, Vancouver, Washington.
Thank you so much. I want to express my deepest thanks to the Goldman Environmental Foundation and family. I am so humbled, honored, and a little overwhelmed by all of this. I deeply appreciate your recognition of my work. Although I am the one standing up here, I am fully cognizant of the fact that I could never have achieved this without the support and hard work of an entire community, many of whom I now consider family. I am so privileged to live in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States, an area of unparalleled beauty and ecological diversity. A few weeks ago, when finding myself in need of some respite and recharging, I hiked one of my favorite trails in the Mount Hood Wilderness, my resplendent sanctuary. As I looked up at larger-than-life glaciers and then down at the mighty Columbia River, the realization of what I have known intrinsically since I was a young child was suddenly crystal clear. Our Earth is fragile. I feel a sense of urgency today. There is a general apathy toward preserving our natural resources, air, water, plants, and animals, all of which contribute to our continued survival. This has led to unprecedented destruction that has been heralded by our most respected experts, yet largely ignored by our policymakers. Our temperatures are rising, our winters are becoming harsher. Our natural world is rebelling against the unbearable strain we have put upon it. The mountain air of my sanctuary is filled with the subtle but visible fog of pollution. My mountain's glaciers are shrinking at a rapid pace. The pristine wilderness I've known for most of my life is disappearing before my eyes. I fear this place will not be here for my children. For 5 long years, I fought the building of what would have been North America's largest oil terminal. We won that battle, but we have not won the war. We still rely far too heavily on fossil fuels, and unless we react with something other than complacency toward climate change, we will hit our tipping point of no return sooner than anticipated. We must act now. I'm sorry. Throughout my years of activism, I have fought for our planet in the face of relentless bullying, intimidation, and threats. Sorry. Despite my fear, I press on because I know that our time is almost up. I persist, along with others who risk their lives and livelihoods every day in facing head-on the threat to human rights posed by corporations who put profit before people. Saving our planet is hard work, but it is not impossible. I need your help in educating those who most need to hear our Earth's dying rally cry. I need your help in eliminating continuous environmental injustices created by big oil and fossil fuel industries. I need your help in cleaning our waters, planting new trees, marching for focus on climate change, and calling out corporate greed that exists only for the benefit of a chosen few. Let's make our voices heard. No act is too small. Every step we take to protect our planet, no matter how seemingly minute, is a gesture of bravery. I will persevere. Will you? Thank you.
Liberia has some of the richest forest lands in Western Africa, but also has a troubled economic and political history. When Ellen Sirleaf Johnson took office as Africa's first female president 13 years ago, one of her goals was to capitalize on the country's precious forests that had been safeguarded for centuries by the indigenous people in the remote Sino County region of Liberia.
For indigenous people, a forest is more than just the physical land or the physical trees. It's their way of life. It is their supermarket, it's their hospital. It is everything to them.
Alfred Brownell, an attorney and law professor, together with his Green Advocates organization, agreed to mitigate the conflict between the native people and Golden Beryllium, an international palm oil conglomerate. The company had forcefully established palm oil plantations by clearing indigenous people's lands without notice, consent, or compensation. In the process, the company had polluted local water sources, cleared community forests, and destroyed the tribe's sacred sites.
If you stood in the village, you just see the massive oil palm. I was shocked. Centuries of history and culture. The company replaced that with an oil palm operation. They were harassing them. They were intimidating them. They were arresting them. So the first thing I wanted to do was to give them hope, to stand up and fight for that forest.
Alfred and his team filed a complaint with the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil and documented the numerous ways in which Golden Beryllium was violating the standards that had been established for sustainable certification. But Alfred was soon faced with a confrontation for which his law studies could never have prepared him. A blockade in the middle of a palm oil plantation was the setting for a hostile band of Golden Beryllium employees with machetes, threatening Alfred with brutally ending his life. Then the village chief intervened with the attackers.
He said, this blood that you want to waste, you can put this blood on this land. So you have to take him to another town and kill him. I told the driver, let's go. And we fled the area.
Alfred's bravery and determination resulted in the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil issuing a stop work order on Golden Beryllium because of the numerous violations that green advocates had listed in their complaint filing. Chief among those violations was that Golden Beryllium had not received the consent of the indigenous people to turn their forests into palm oil plantations.
When I got the news that the arrests were being restored now to protect this forest and protect the people who live in this forest for generations to come, I was overwhelmed and I cried.
After the decision in favor of the native people, Alfred's safety and security were jeopardized, even in his home in Monrovia. A warrant for his arrest was issued that quickly turned into a manhunt that he barely escaped with his wife and children.
It was the toughest decision that Alfred ever made. And I can tell you, even when Alfred succeeded, even in leaving the country, Alfred's goal was to instantly come back. So, Alfred left with a very heavy heart.
Alfred and his family are living in exile in the United States. He's a visiting environmental and human rights law professor at Northeastern University in Boston. He publicly speaks out at schools, churches, and community groups to focus attention on protecting Liberian forests from being exploited further by encroaching industries.
How to pull my family off, how to tear my children away. Whenever I talk to the indigenous people who I work with, I really miss them. I have made up my mind that even with the gun at my face, I will do this 1,000,000 times. I am not afraid. I am prepared and I have no regret.
For outstanding environmental achievements for Africa, the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Alfred Brownell, Sinoe County, Liberia.
I stand before you tonight because of a mixture of luck, my Christian faith, the protection of Mother Nature, and the shield of our ancestors. Yes, I survived to tell this story, but many defenders around the world who are part of our community murdered at the rate of 4 per week have not been so lucky. This victory was possible only because we built an army of local and international NGOs. My appreciation first is to my beautiful wife, Bessie Brownell, who's been my hero, my kids, Conan, Alfred Jr., and Kiddo Brownell. I also want to extend appreciation to the Goldman Environmental Foundation, I've Rights International, Northeastern University, Fund for Global Human Rights, Advocate for Community Alternative, Global Witness, Forest People's Program, Green Advocate, Sustainable Development Initiative, and so many other organizations that I cannot name here. This honor will, I hope, elevate the status of the lungs of West and North Africa. Don't clap, act. And the struggle of communities protecting this forest. And I hope it will help the global community to better understand the danger of palm oil. Don't clap, act. Unsustainable palm oil, which I refer to as the Frankenstein palm oil, is a major cause of environmental destruction, deforestation, ethnic cleansing, human rights violation, and economic exploitation in Liberia and elsewhere. I'm on this stage tonight as a messenger from the indigenous people and local forest communities of Liberia with a request and a message. I'm here, among others, to talk about Ma Ana Tu. Ma Ana Tu, an indigenous Kru woman leader from Liberia, a grandmother who was flogged, stripped completely naked, and thrown onto the back of a police jeep and in prison. Her only crime being to protect her customary land. She wants me to say that despite the threats she faced, all hope is not lost. But it is time. It is time to commit to protecting the tropical forests of West Africa, which is still under serious threat from commercial oil palm. It is time. It is time to invest in community-driven innovations and business models designed by indigenous people who have coexisted with nature for centuries. Don't clap, act. Don't clap, act. It is time. It is time to rethink development and investment. We too, said indigenous people, are investors and development experts. And very successful one at it too. What was done in my community, says Ma Ana Tu, was called development, supported by foreign direct investment. But this model destroyed everything in its path. The forest, the water, the agriculture, and the vast carbon sink, not to mention centuries of history and sacred tradition. It is time to call on BlackRock, Nestle, pension fund, endowment fund, and banks to start financing destructive investment that threaten people and the planet. It is time. It is time. Don't clap, act. Don't clap, act. Don't clap, act. It is time. It is time to look at the palm oil beneath the label and brands. When you walk into a grocery store, you hardly notice this destruction. It is hiding behind the labels and the brand. So when you are enjoying snacks, ice cream, candy, applying lipstick, nail polish. It is important to remember the consequences across the world, out of your view. Do not forget what happened to Ma Anatu, that grandmother. We need to become better educated about products that contain palm oil, with better labeling, stronger regulation, and a direct understanding of cause and effect. Do not forget, it is the forest that produces oxygen that gave us life. Next time, my dear, when any of you walk out of your door, give a tree a loving, tender hug. Please act now and do something before it is too late. If we did it, you can do it also. It is time. It is time. Thank you.
Don't clap.
Don't clap, act. Don't clap, act.
In 1952, the national government built a massive hydroelectric dam in Mavrovo National Park. The project completely devastated the region, displacing a community of shepherds and farmers and submerging the church that was the central hub for the community.
At that time, Mavrovo was basically a group of settlements where people lived as shepherds. But this is a very clear example of how large dams can impact both cultural heritage and natural heritage.
Anna Cholovic-Lisowska, a biologist, was surprised to learn that the government was planning to repeat its mistake by developing two major dams that would once again be built within Mavrovo National Park. Anna and her organization Ecosvest began investigating the impact of the proposed dams and became alarmed.
Dams are not sustainable projects. Macedonia is blessed with 280 days of sun in the year, which means that we have huge potential of use solar power. So the whole idea of building hydropower plants in a national park, for me, was insane.
Then Anna's alarm turned to outrage when Ecosvest's research indicated that the proposed dams would not only impact the park, but threaten the habitat of the critically endangered Balkan lynx.
When I realized that the Balkan lynx is at stake, I felt really triggered to stop these crazy plans and to do everything in my power to preserve the population of this critically endangered species. We have around 40 of the Balkan lynx left, and it is very important to protect its critical habitat.
But Anna and Ecosvest had some formidable adversaries. Not just the Macedonian government, but the World Bank and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development had already approved the projects.
We were at the very beginning skeptical because the loans were granted and the decisions were made. However, we strongly believe that environmental protection should be paramount in any decision making.
Anna filed complaints against all of the stakeholders in the project and began to forge strategic partnerships with government officials and environmental organizations. Then she petitioned the Berne Convention, an international treaty that safeguards environmental accountability among member nations.
We also participated in public hearings to convey our concerns to the institutions. And with the support of 119 scientists from all over the world, we gathered more than 100,000 signatures for the protection of the Balkan links.
For 4 long years, Anna persisted with her multifaceted campaign. Then the dominoes started to fall in Ecosvest's favor. First, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development issued a finding that the bank had breached its own procedures when it endorsed the projects. Then the Bern Convention responded to Ecosvest's complaint, indicating that the hydropower plants should be stopped and encouraging the funders to withdraw. Soon, the World Bank did exactly that.
This was a major success for us. We managed to stop 2 large dams from happening. But for me, the fight is not over. My country has a responsibility to the world to protect this species. We really need to make sure that its habitat is purely intact.
For outstanding environmental achievement in Europe, the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Anna Cholovic-Lesovska, Mavrovo National Park, North Macedonia.
Thank you. Good evening. Let me express my gratitude towards the Goldman family and congratulate them on the 30th anniversary of the award. I would also like to thank my family for the immense support over the years, my colleagues at Ecosvest, CE Bankwatch Network, and also at the Macedonian Ecological Society and Front 2142 for their outstanding work. Nature is our home. It is the source of all resources. We designate natural habitats as protected areas so we can preserve their value and so we can educate the public and our leaders in the process. These protected areas also demonstrate that humans can indeed live with nature without harming it. For me, the National Park of Mavrovo is an area that shows the connectivity of people and nature. And as we decide to protect natural habitats to support the survival of species, we cannot simultaneously undermine these environments. Building hydropower projects in protected areas is not contributing to the protection of wildlife, and therefore these projects should never be allowed. This madness of the hydro rush is not only happening in my country. Many countries that dream of joining the European Union are catching this disease and building hydropower projects under the guise of meeting renewable energy targets required by the EU. The Western Balkans are simply flooded with proposed projects, more than 2,700 of them. In nearby Georgia, the government plans an estimated 150 hydropower projects, including the $1 billion Nenskra Dam, a project that poses massive risks on par with those we fought against in Mavrovo. It is alarming that the international financial institutions support projects that harm the natural habitats in our region. Public banks, like the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the World Bank Group, have supported the construction of hydropower plants in the Balkans directly or indirectly, and at least 1/3 of their projects ended up in areas of high biodiversity. This practice cannot be the way towards achieving long-term conservation goals and reducing the pressure on biodiversity and ecosystems. Financial institutions must adopt stronger policies and regulations to prevent damage to our natural habitats and species. National governments have the responsibility to the world to adopt wildlife protection programs for species with critical status, such as the Balkan lynx. To support our work in protecting our rivers and natural habitats, please sign our petitions. Building awareness about how public money destroys our planet is important worldwide. You can also ask your elected officials if US policy and funding are actually supporting harmful projects in the developing world. Protecting nature is key to our survival. The question remains, if not us, who? If not now, when? Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations to the first 3 winners of the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize. Hearing the stories of the Goldman Environmental Prize recipients reminds us of our own responsibility to inspire and educate the next generation of young environmentalists among us. Tonight, we are proudly hosting more than 500 Bay Area environmental youth leaders, students, and activists who will help carry the torch. As we've seen around the world in recent months, young people truly have the potential to change our world for the better. Please join me now in welcoming our very special performers, Michael Franti, performing his newly released song, The Flower, with Oakland's very own Vocal Rush.
I said, how you feeling? All right. Thank you, Alexandra. We're very excited to be here today, to be performing at the Goldman Awards. This is my second time being here. And the first time I was so inspired by all the recipients, but also by the commitment of the Goldman family, because 30 years ago when they started this, it wasn't quite as sexy to be an environmentalist as it is today. So I want to say thank you to the Goldman family for making environmentalism so sexy. When I was a kid, I was born in Oakland, California. My mother is Irish, German, and Belgian, and my birth father is African American and Nottoway Indian from the mountains of Virginia. And I was adopted at birth by the Franti family, who were second-generation immigrants from Finland. And they came to this country seeking a better life, just like so many millions of families have for generations and decades, and still do today. When they were students at UC Berkeley, they already had 3 kids of their own. And one day my mom went to church and heard there was 190,000 children in need of adoption. So she went home to Mr. Franti and said, Charlie, I know we already get 3 kids of our own and we're living in married student housing. But I think we should adopt another one. And that was me. They got me. So I grew up in this really mixed, melting pot of a family, and just to round things out, I have one sister who's a lesbian and one brother who's a police officer. Typical Bay Area family. And I would get picked on a lot as a kid. And the song that we want to play for you is a song that I wrote that's about bullying. But more than that, it's a song that's about standing up for yourselves and for our nation, for our planet. And it's a song that says that every single one of us, no matter what walk of life, can be a part of the healing that our world needs today. And I'm happy to be joined by the Oakland School of the Arts Choir. And this is a song that's also a song that's about gun violence. And when I made the video for it, I traveled around the country speaking to families who'd been affected by gun violence. And I went to Parkland High School, among many other places. And I went into Miss Ivy's class. And she had 4 children who were shot in her class. And that day, she was teaching a class. Actually, her class, the whole semester, was about the Holocaust. That day, she had a Holocaust survivor in the classroom who's 90 years old. He said something to me that I will never, ever forget for as long as I live. When he finally secured his freedom from Auschwitz and went back to his village, he was one of only 50 survivors of 2,000 people who had went there. And he said for the whole first year, he cried. He cried morning, noon, and night, until eventually he started to heal from it. And he said to me, Michael, from great pain comes great healing. And therefore, no pain should ever be wasted. No pain should ever be wasted. And so I want to say to everyone here, take the pain that you see that is affecting our planet and the world today. Take the pain that is in your heart and use it for good. Use it to put a flower in the gun. Use it to make sure that this generation here has a head start in making sure that our planet can be 100% renewable energy for 100% of the world's population. We can be the healing when you're feeling all alone. We can be the reason to find the strength to carry on. In a world that's so divided, we shall overcome. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. What could I say to my son or to my daughter if they came and asked me about these days? What kind of reason could I give for all the hate that's standing in the way? Wish I could tell them that nobody's gonna judge them, and every stranger on the block is gonna love them. No bully in the world could ever hurt them, but I can't say that today. No, no.
No one could ever take your pride from you. Speak your truth and let your spirit fly.
'Cause we could be the healing when you're feeling all alone. We could be the reason to find the strength to carry on. In a world that's so divided, we shall overcome. We could be the healing. We could be the flower in the gun. We could be the healing. We could be the flower in the gun.
Judge me. Every stranger on the block is gonna love me. No bully in the world is gonna hurt me, but I can't say that today. No, no,
No one could ever take my pride from me. Yeah. Speak my truth and let my spirit. Put your hands together, y'all. 'Cause we could be the healing when you're feeling all alone. We could be the reason to find the strength to carry on. In a world that's so divided, we shall overcome. We could be the healing. We could be the flower in the gun. We could be the healing. We could be the flower in the gun. It's like dropping pebbles into the ocean, seeing them spread ripples around the world. Let me hear you say, whoa, whoa,
whoa,
yeah,
yeah,
whoa, whoa,
whoa,
yeah. And everybody say, whoa,
whoa,
yeah,
yeah,
whoa,
can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower. Everybody let me hear you say, we can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun.
Be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun.
We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. In a world that's so divided, we shall overcome. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. We can be the healing. We can be the flower in the gun. Thanks. Everybody on your feet. Everybody on your feet. This one goes like this. I say, hey, I'll be gone today, but I'll be back coming around the way. It seems like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. But I know one thing, that I love you. I love you. I love you. Are you ready, y'all? We love ya. Come on. Put your hands together, y'all. I'll say, hey, I'll be gone today, but I'll be back coming around the way. Seems like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. But I know one thing, that I love you. Baby girl, I love you. I love you. I love you. I've been a lot of places all around the way. I've seen a lot of joy and I've seen a lot of pain, but I don't want to write a love song for the world. I just want to write a song about a boy and a girl. Chunky's on the corner, always calling my name. And the kids on the corner playing ghetto games. When I saw you getting down, girl, I hope it was you. When I look into your eyes, I knew it was true. I say, hey, I'll be gone today, but I'll be back coming around the way. Seems like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. But I know one thing, that I love you. Baby girl, I love you. I love you. I love you. How you feeling, y'all? People up in the way top, how you feeling up there? People in the middle, how you feeling out there? People in the bottom, how you feeling? I'm not a highly metaphysical man, but I know when the stars are aligned, you can bump into a person in the middle of the road, look into their eyes and you suddenly know. Rocking in the dance hall, moving with you, dancing in the night or in the middle of June. Yes, my mama told me don't lose you, cause the best luck I had was you. I say, hey, I'll be gone today, I'll be back coming around the way. Seems like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. I know one thing, that I love you. Hey, you in the middle there, come down here. You in the aisle, come on down. In the back there, in the red dress, come down here. Yeah, you, come on down. Yeah, you in the red top. I see you dancing in the aisles. Get up here with me. Come on up here. To the bridge, y'all, put your hands up high. Rocking in the dance hall, moving with you. Hey mama, close to you. Rocking in the dance hall, moving with you. Hey papa, kick up your shoes. Rocking in the dance hall, moving with you. Hey mama, close to you. Rocking in the dance hall, moving with you. Hey mama, 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 hey mama. What's your name?
Joan.
Joan, sing this for me. Ready?
Whoa.
Ready to hear Joan sing?
Whoa. Mama told me, don't lose you. Cause the best luck I had was you.
the way. Seem like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. But I know one thing, that I love you, baby girl, I love you, I love you. Mikey, play that piano for us. Put your hands up high, y'all. I say, hey, I'll be gone today. I'll be back coming around the way. Seem like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. I know one thing, that I love you. Check it out. We're going to kick this in real good. And when we do, I want to see everybody from the bottom to the top jumping just like Jonah up here. Are you ready, y'all? I say 1, 2. Here we go. I want to see you jumping, y'all. I say, hey, I'll be gone today. I'll be back coming around the way. Seem like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. But I know one thing, that I love you. Baby girl, I love you. I love you. San Francisco, Goldman Prize awardees, thank you for doing the amazing work you do. We love ya! Give it up for Joni. The Oakland School of the Arts Choir, Vocal Rush, Mike Blankenship on the piano, Carl Young on the bass. I'm Michael Franti. Have a great night. Peace.
Well, thank you to Michael and Vocal Rush. That was just perfect. So, when I was 8 months pregnant with my son, I traveled to Vermont to interview a farmer who had just transitioned to organic practices on his family-owned dairy farm. And we spent the day touring his operation, and as we were leaving, I asked him, "So how does all of this make you feel?" And he said, "I feel wonderful, because for the first time in my life, my choices are aligned with my beliefs, and I'm leaving a better farm and a better world to my children." And I thought that was a lovely response, but didn't give it much more thought in that moment, because I had a baby, and you know, babies take a lot of time and a lot of attention. But a couple months later, I traveled to Madhya Pradesh in India, where I interviewed a cotton farmer who had just transitioned his operation to an organic cotton farm. And so we spent the day touring the cotton fields, and as I was leaving, I asked, "So how does all of this make you feel?" And he said, "I feel wonderful, because for the first time in my life, my choices are aligned with my beliefs, and I'm leaving a better farm and a better world to my children." And that's when I realized something that is profoundly important. These two men who shared no commonalities other than their connection to the land and their shared humanity were able to articulate a human need which we often overlook: the need to live in alignment with the natural world and the sense of peace and fulfillment that we derive from being able to do that. And I believe that this is a wellspring of hope for the more abundant world that we know is possible. Each of our prize winners today represent that hope and offer us a glimpse of how one person can change the world. Their determination, courage, and perseverance are an example to us all. So now, please meet the final 3 winners of the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize.
The Cook Islands are scattered across nearly 800,000 square miles of the vast South Pacific. These tropical waters are home to a stunning array of fish and endangered species. For Jackie Evans, a native Cook Islander and a marine conservationist, protecting this unique habitat has been a lifetime commitment.
I want to leave our children a clean ocean. I want them to be able to eat the fish from the sea. I don't want to leave them with a mess.
By the early 2000s, pollution, climate change, and commercial fishing were taking a toll on the Cook Islands. Reefs were dying, and local fishermen were struggling to feed their families.
It's been heartbreaking to see families not being able to get the amount of fish that they are used to getting.
To avert ecological disaster, the Prime Minister called on government, traditional leaders, and NGOs to design an ambitious ocean conservation plan.
These small communities must be protected.
Pushing for collaboration among stakeholders, Jackie became a key player.
I think the challenges right at the start was getting people to believe that it would happen. And secondly, trying to balance the interests of the different players.
An early point of contention was the exclusion of the Northern Cook Islands from the initial proposal. Pushing for a more comprehensive plan, Jackie traveled thousands of miles to get support from outlying island communities.
Every meeting, there would be someone that would say, why are you only protecting the southern half? The north is part of the Cook Islands, you should include them as part of the protected area.
Jackie and her fellow islanders also wanted to limit commercial fishing and seabed mining by creating expansive marine protected areas. But the idea was opposed by fishery officials. The issue reached a boiling point in 2015.
Government officials were not responding to what the people were asking.
To turn the tide, Jackie brought in international experts to educate policymakers.
The scientists were really helpful in talking about migratory species and how they spawn in areas that are protected and how that can help to increase populations of those species.
Through compelling science and collaboration, Jackie was finally able to generate consensus.
We were able to talk through the policy and legislation to prepare the bill for Parliament. The name that was chosen was Marae Moana, and Marae Moana means the sacred ocean.
In 2017, Jackie's 5 years of hard work paid off. The plan was signed into law. It designates all 763,000 square miles of Cook Islands ocean territory for ecologically sustainable development. It also created marine protected areas that provide higher levels of protection for 50 miles around each island.
With Marae Moana in place, we're able to make sure that the people participate in the decision making around our ocean resources for future generations.
It was a huge milestone. Jackie was very passionate, very determined, a lot of tenacity.
After the legislation was passed, people said to me, wow, so this is a great job, Jackie. What are you going to do next? I said, 20 years of implementation. Because you just got to keep at it.
For outstanding environmental achievement for islands and island nations, The 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Jacqueline Evans, Rarotonga, Cook Islands.
Kia ora. It's an honour to receive this prize, but this has most definitely been a team effort. In particular, I want to thank 4 individuals: Kevin Ero, Tu'uariki, Elizabeth Wright Kortika, and Prime Minister Henry Puna. Without your leadership, vision, and influence, Marae Moana would never have been established. I want to honour my parents, Roger and Miriana Evans, and my son who is here tonight. Thank you, Marino o te Moana. I want to acknowledge the many individuals and organisations, particularly the Te Ipakaria Society, who worked tirelessly to engage the public, to begin asking questions about what we are doing to our ocean. Without them, public debate on the issue would have been minor, and few would be aware of what is happening to our ocean. Civil society organisations, which are always motivated to improve the world, often have their suggestions shut down and their questions ignored. They are discredited despite having evidence, stifled despite the assurance of expressing themselves freely, and insulted because they don't toe the line. In some countries, even their life is threatened. This is why Marae Moana is so important, as it brings together government, civil society organisations, the private sector and traditional leaders to tackle ocean issues. Everyone is an equal participant at the meeting table. But most of all, I want to thank the traditional leaders and their communities in the Cook Islands for their common sense and their love for their ocean. It's because of this love that they chose to protect it. Our people believe the ocean has a personality. We have legends about conversations held with sharks and whales. We have a god of the sea. That is why it's no surprise that Prime Minister Puna has called for us to explore the concept of the rights of the ocean as a legal entity. It's not enough to establish marine protected areas, to require environmental impact assessments, to adopt laws, guidelines and standards. We need to stop viewing the ocean as a dumping ground and a place with limitless resources. Our ocean, from its greatest depths to the splendour of its reefs, has a personality. Our ocean is being abused, disrespected, and is under attack. Our ocean is calling for help. So just as people who are abused and under attack are afforded rights, we must also afford rights to the ocean. Join us in our struggle for ocean rights. Thank you. Kia ora e kia manuia.
Snow leopards once roamed throughout Asia's mountains, but these rare cats have been victims of poaching and habitat loss due to mining, and their numbers have been dwindling for decades. Today, it's estimated that there are as few as 4,000 left in the wild. Mongolia is home to the world's second largest population, some 1,000 in all. Saving snow leopards has been Bayara Agbansaran's life's work.
Battery is still good, so that's good.
This cat can be so mysterious. They have amazing ability to camouflage themselves. We don't see them. Maybe they see us from very close.
In 2009, while working with local communities on a program that helps herders and their livestock coexist with snow leopards, Bayara made a startling discovery.
The entire Tostosan-Bumba mountain range was given away to mining and exploration licenses. When I heard this, I knew I had to take action.
Mining is a booming industry in Mongolia. 37 mining licenses had been issued within the mountains, in the heart of the snow leopard's habitat. To save the vulnerable cats, Bayara wanted the licenses revoked and Toast to become a national nature reserve. It was a major challenge.
We realized we needed to bring all the different parties together and unite them with a shared goal.
The local communities were immediately on board. Next, Bayara began broadening her coalition, meeting with lawyers, conservationists, and human rights advocates.
We had to learn to work with media and with decision makers at the highest level of government. It was very challenging because this was all new territory for us.
In 2015, after 5 years of hard work with few tangible results, a young colleague of Bayara's was found dead under mysterious circumstances.
The news shocked us. People suspected that mining companies were behind Sombi's sudden death. We realized we should continue fighting as a tribute to Sombi.
Bayara forged ahead. She took her case to the Mongolian parliament, where she found champions and 2 women members.
Bayara approached me, said, could you please submit a law to protect this area? We drafted a proposal with Bayara's team's help.
Meanwhile, Bayara began building a media campaign to reach a nationwide audience.
We organized press conferences and at each one demanded a response from decision makers. We regularly wrote articles for newspapers and websites.
Bayara and I agreed it was important for people to understand that conserving nature means protecting their way of life.
Bayara's determination began to pay off, with public opinion shifting in favor of conservation. In 2016, Parliament voted yes on the bill to make Toast a national nature reserve, eventually eliminating all remaining mining permits. It was a major victory for Bayara and the snow leopard.
When we heard that over 83% of the Parliament voted yes, I was overwhelmed with happiness.
Bayara found a way to work with everybody. I don't know how did she do it, but she did it.
The 1.8 million acre reserve connects 2 other protected areas for a combined 20 million acres in the South Gobi, making it one of the largest snow leopard habitats in the world. It is Mongolia's only park specifically dedicated to snow leopard conservation.
There's lots of work ahead of us to develop Tost as a national park. That is my next goal, to support these local people to save the snow leopard habitat.
For outstanding environmental achievement for Asia, the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Bayara Agbansaran, Toast Mountains, Mongolia.
Thank you. I would like to thank the Goldman Environmental Foundation for recognizing our work and for this award. It is a great honor to be here tonight. I started Snow Leopard Conservation Foundation to work with and to empower herder communities in Mongolia to protect our wildlife and our homelands. Together, we're protecting crucial snow leopard habitat from what can sometimes seem like insurmountable threats. Across Mongolia, mining has taken its toll on the environment, and it has disrupted wildlife and the lives of rural herders. Valuable pasture, water sources, and habitat have been destroyed, with little regard for the future of people or animal. It is a phenomenon seen the world over, and one of the biggest challenges we face in conservation. I have literally seen mountains leveled to the ground, and once pristine lands taken over by roads, fences, and mining equipment. When I learned that the sacred and vital habitat in the Tost Mountains was under imminent threat from mining, my colleagues and I devoted all our energy to helping the community save the land and its snow leopards. No one acts alone, and I would not be here if not for the many people, my colleagues and others, who through hard work and great sacrifice support this effort. Thank you to our partner, Snow Leopard Trust, for keeping this work going. And most of all, thank you to the local community of Tost Mountains, who share mountains inherited from our ancestors with snow leopards. People working together can accomplish great things and can stop the destruction of the natural world that is often driven by individuals and corporations who seem bent on sacrificing our environment for short-term gain. This is just the beginning. We are working with local community and local government agencies to make sure that new protected area is not just paper victory. We have started citizen patrols, and the government is hiring state rangers. We have initiated research and community programs, and communities actively creating management plans. In Mongolia, we continue to increase protected areas and wildlife habitat. We humans are not only living things on the planet, and we must coexist with all other species like snow leopard if we ourselves to survive. Join us whenever you live and continue to speak out to protect the world around you. Our lives and our children's lives depend on us here and now. Thank you.
The Cautín River begins as a trickle in the volcanic mountains of central Chile and runs through the heart of indigenous Mapuche territory.
En la vida espiritual, también nosotros siempre
in our ceremonies and in our prayers, we invoke the spirits of the rivers and the spirits of the mountains. Water is life to us. It's a spiritual being that gives us strength.
Outspoken Mapuche leader Alberto Cudamel is dedicated to preserving his people's culture and protecting their sacred land and water. So when Chile's government announced a plan to build dozens of hydroelectric projects on local rivers, including 2 on the Rio Cautín, Alberto was spurred into action.
I had no other choice but to defend our territory by organizing my people to protect this natural force that gives us life.
The 2 hydro projects would divert over 500 million gallons of water per day from the river and devastate the local ecosystem. The region was already suffering from years of drought. Alberto knew that a united effort was their only hope against a powerful government that routinely discriminates against indigenous people.
The state is against our rights to defend our territory, our human rights. We are facing large corporations who are economically ambitious and impoverish the communities around them.
Alberto and the Mapuche began organizing a resistance movement by inviting people from outside the community into their traditional gatherings. They created an unprecedented coalition that included academics, NGOs, and a legal team to build a case against the Chilean government.
Our strategy was to show that the government's environmental impact study and the company were in fact lying by claiming that there was no negative impact here.
But tensions mounted as the movement gained support, with Chile's military police intimidating and arresting leaders. In February 2014, a peaceful march turned violent.
5 policemen threw me to the ground and beat me. I reached the point where I no longer felt their blows.
Despite the severity of his injuries, Alberto refused to be intimidated.
He would always tell me, we can't be afraid of the state or the police. We know what we're fighting for, and we know the consequences we face in our fight.
Finally, in 2018, Alberto's fearless dedication paid off. The government had failed to consult the Mapuche and ignored environmental impacts. As a result, both hydroelectric projects were canceled.
It was a great joy for us. We won against big forces of the government. That's why I am proud of my man, who has been able to achieve the impossible.
But in August 2018, Alberto was arrested and jailed. His family and colleagues believe it is an attempt to silence him.
I am accused of attempted murder and of possession of firearms. And of course, these are all lies. By criminalizing me, they think the people will stop believing in our cause. But we have always said that neither jail nor death can stop this struggle.
My father is a very strong person. Even in prison, he has a strong desire to keep fighting. He always tells us that I may not be with you in person, but my spirit is there with you.
For outstanding environmental achievement for South and Central America, the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Alberto Codemil, Mapuche Territory, Chile.
Regrettably, Alberto cannot be here with us tonight in person to receive the prize. As you heard in the video, he was arrested last August, and for the past 9 months, he has been jailed in Chile, held on charges that we believe are false and based on his environmental activism. He does not yet have a date set for trial. Alberto is among dozens of past Goldman Prize winners who have been arrested, imprisoned, and persecuted by their governments because of their activism. We hope that the exposure generated by the prize will help bring justice for Alberto quickly, just as it has helped so many others in the past. Libertad por Alberto. In Alberto's place, his daughter, Belén Coramil, will say a few words.
Señoras y señores, amigas y amigos, soy Belén Coramil. En nombre de mi padre, autoridad tradicional del pueblo mapuche en Chile, Alberto Coramil Millanao, prisionero político en la cárcel de Temuco, reciban ustedes un afectuoso saludo desde el sur del mundo. Para el pueblo mapuche, como para todos los pueblos indígenas, la tierra y sus elementos, ríos, montañas, bosques, agua y aire, aves y animales, hablan, sienten, respiran, se alimentan y conviven para ser una comunidad donde el ser humano, o che, es uno más en ese vivir. Ese conocimiento ancestral que defiende los derechos de nuestra madre tierra es el que los poderes de la modernidad pretenden destruir. Y la razón del encarcelamiento de mi padre, que dignamente resiste y que envía a todas y todos ustedes un mensaje de esperanza y continuidad de la lucha por preservar el equilibrio de la vida. La lucha mapuche es una lucha ecológica, es una lucha por la vida y su continuidad. Mapu es la tierra y todo lo que existe. Che somos nosotros o personas que la habitamos. Entonces, somos gente de la tierra, cuyo mandato principal es proteger todo aquello que hace posible la existencia, basado en una espiritualidad conectada con los elementos naturales. No puedo despedirme de ustedes sin antes reconocer el enorme esfuerzo y sacrificio de resistencia de mi pueblo en los últimos 100 años de sometimiento y dominación por parte de los poderes chilenos. Nos ha costado miseria económica, genocidio, usurpación de territorio, robo del agua y ganado, ejecuciones extrajudiciales, megaproyectos e invasión del monocultivo forestal. Pero seguimos vivos. Por último, desde la cárcel, mi padre valora y reconoce la importancia de este premio, el cual es un aliciente para seguir creyendo que otro mundo es posible, pero con unidad y compromiso colectivo, y no desde el individualismo que hoy gobierna el mundo. Libertad al lonco Alberto Coramil, libertad a todos los presos políticos mapuche. Marichi huevo. Muchas gracias.
Congratulations to the 2019 Goldman Prize winners. All of us can take action to support these prize winners and help protect the planet. Here are 3 things that you can do right now. First, help free Alberto by posting to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, asking the Chilean government to free Alberto Curamil. Second, as you are leaving, please take home with you one of 2 pieces. A handcrafted animal made by Mongolian herders through Bayara's program. On it is information for you to adopt a snow leopard at snowleopard.org. And a card that explains how palm oil is destroying the Earth's forests and what you can do to help. Please also visit goldmanprize.org and visit prize winner pages. Subscribe to our newsletter and spread the word about these phenomenal environmental champions. So please remain seated until the prize recipients have exited the theater. We invite you to join us across the street at City Hall for a very special celebration and reception to meet the year's prize recipients, where you'll have a chance to enjoy 3 special photo booths. And now, I would ask all of tonight's 6 recipients to come up to the stage. Linda Garcia from Vancouver, Washington. Alfred Brownell from Liberia. Bayara Agvanseren from Mongolia. Jackie Evans from the Cook Islands. Belén Curamil Caño, representing her father, Alberto Curamil from Chile. And Anna Kolovic-Lesoska from North Macedonia. Let's give a big San Francisco round of applause to the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize winners. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us to celebrate this year's Goldman Environmental Prize winners. Again, we also salute Richard and Rhoda Goldman, whose purpose and foresight 30 years ago launched the world's foremost environmental award. Thank you, and good night.